You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I know I asked earlier if you'd heard the interview with David Hertel and Denny Coderre this morning, and that we replayed at 3 o'clock. Just wondered what you thought, because we haven't heard anything from Denny Coderre, not as far as English radio goes, in a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's been out and about with French media. Listen, I have to tell you, all I can say is, he's no longer the mayor of Montreal. So to a certain extent, it's not my place to talk about what's happening to Denny Coderre personally, even if he is raising the issue himself. All I can say is I wish him all the best. I wish him a speedy and full recovery, and I hope, given what I heard him tell David today, and given what we know, given the various incarnations he went through those two elections and the issues that he faced, that I hope he finds peace. I hope he really does. I mean, the best thing I heard him say in the entirety of his interview with us was, I intend to look after myself. And I hope he means it, and I hope it works out for the best for him. But yeah, I mean, it's I can't look at him as, Mayor Denny Coderre or ex-Mayor Denny Coderre. I look at him as a guy who's gone through a very, very rough patch, and who appears, at least on the interview that I heard, to have understood that perhaps, it's time to change the way you look at things, or he looks at things. And I think that's a story that can apply to a lot of people listening to us right now who have gone down the same path. That you realize that perhaps all those things that you thought were so important or indeed essential in your life could have led you to a cliff. So in that regard, I mean, I think that's about all I can say about it.
No, and that's very well said.
It's a very important statement, perhaps the most important statement Denny Coderre has ever made.
I'm going to start taking care of myself. All right. Jim, let me move on from that. I'd not heard. Look, I know we've spoken about Benoit Dubreuil, who's now the official languages commissioner. I don't know what's involved in this report. Is this the first thing he's done since his appointment now?
This is absolutely his first appointment. What do you think the essence of that report is, Aaron?
I don't know. Is French in danger, Jim?
Give that man a case of spaghetti sauce. Yes, it is in danger. It's not just in danger from all the usual suspects, people like us. It's also in danger from all of those temporary workers, all those immigrants. Did you know they speak English amongst themselves?
What?
Because most of them come over here, like they have their mother tongue, but because they're not from Quebec, where everything's in French, and because they live in countries where usually the easiest lingua franca to deal with is English, they speak English amongst themselves. But as far as I'm concerned, guys, the money quote on this, and I'm sorry because I'm just looking at the news report. I haven't seen the report just yet, but there was, highlights. They have the bulleted highlights at the bottom. And apparently a large minority of young Quebecers do not have a preference when it comes to being served in French in stores. Can you imagine?
Oh, my.
I'm going to buy sandbags right now because, let's face it, it's only a matter of time. But this is it. I mean, the irony, of course, is that once again, any place else on earth, this would be laughable. And people would be slapping each other on the back. They'd be laughing so hard. But here, this is going to be treated very seriously, because clearly, if young Quebecers, clearly they've been brainwashed by the Anglo menace, and now they don't have a preference.
I see.
Even though this is perhaps more of a sign that young Quebecers realize there's a world that extends beyond the Gaspé and Gatineau, and that they are a part of that world. And it doesn't mean that they're any less Quebecois. It doesn't mean they have lost their identity. It just means they discovered they're on the planet Earth as opposed to the planet Quebec.
I think we should
quite
play
frankly, is a spinning imaginary sphere that has cost us all in this province so much for the past 50 years. So, on the one hand, you can look at this and slap your forehead and say, yeah, here we go again. On the other hand, when you see the things that are worrying Monsieur Dubreuil, I think there's some hope for the future.
So he joins us tomorrow at 5:35, and I was going to ask you what would be the first thing you would ask him, except I think instead maybe we should just begin by playing that back for him, perhaps.
Well, listen, I mean, I know he's got a job to do. And, we interviewed him when he was first appointed, and he said, listen, I'm not here to cause problems. I'm just here to look at the state of French. But come on, I mean, if you want to take this seriously, and I think a lot of our listeners do want to take it seriously, we don't want to live in Ontario. If you want to live in Ontario, we've moved there. And those who wanted to have done so. If you're living in Quebec, it's because you realize you are in a French-speaking place. The majority of people here speak French. I know there are people of a certain age or perhaps of a certain disposition who cannot or will not speak French. They are a minuscule representation of the population. Everybody, and the idea that you have all of our listeners and so many people saying, "What the hell do I have to do? I probably speak better French than my francophone neighbor, but what is my last name wrong?" I mean, that's more of the issue here. But when you see a report like this, you just have to despair, at least insofar as this government goes. Because, the government's just looking, as I say, the government needs adversaries, villains, threats, and it's just, it really sort of points out that this government, despite all the oxygen it uses, telling us about its sacred mission to protect the Quebec identity, okay? The fact is, they don't really have a plan. They don't, and people who say, well, listen, why don't you try this, or why don't you just make it easier to learn how to speak French? They're trying that now, but with all the other stuff with 96, with all the pettiness, with all the vindictiveness, with all the really cheap shot politics that essentially is the DNA of the Coalition Avenir Quebec, you can bet those numbers are not going to improve. If only because I think a lot of francophones as well are going to say, I'm going to hitch my star someplace else because this place is becoming more bucolic with every passing day.
Jim, I want to get to one last thing and then we'll get out. Look, I saw Premier Legault. We saw Francis Bonnardel earlier today talking about the wildfire situation. The question is being asked, and I think it's a fair question to ask, why weren't we better prepared? We're finding out about, the planes that don't fly. Why haven't we done this in the past? Is that fair?
It's absolutely fair. We have a province here that's 3 times the size of France. Most of it is forest. We have a special agency which is world-renowned for its skill in fighting forest fires, and yet we don't have the resources. And now, Francois Legault, it's kind of funny. Did you guys get this kind of, post-traumatic stress flashback to the pandemic press conferences when he's doing these briefings on the forest fires?
Oh,
yeah, seeing them all in there in their vests.
Yeah, shows up wearing a fireman's hat. You know that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, though, they blather and whatever. Of course, they weren't prepared, and they won't be prepared for the next climate change fallout, whether it's landslides or floods. They don't, because in the moment they say yes, very important solidarity, and when the thing goes away, they're off chasing some other shiny thing, usually Quebec identity.
James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Adamant.